Hi, I'm poking my head in today to introduce this video about making embellishment clusters for your scrapbook pages. I've been trying to improve my embellishment clusters, and I now have a 4-part method that when I use it, I like how my clusters turn out. So I want to share it with you. I want to start out by acknowledging creators who have had a big impact on me, and I'm going to put in the description box information on where you can find them. First is Janet at RTS Scrapbooking. Janet has a huge resource on both YouTube and Patreon, and she is amazing and has really had a big impact on me. Next is Nicole Jones 911. She has a ton of videos on YouTube, and she also has a class that I took called Demystifying Clusters. She's had a big impact, and I am going to use some terminology that she uses as I make my embellishment clusters. Nicole has a huge library of videos, and I'm going to leave the links to her channel and her website if you're interested in her class. And finally, the video that changed everything for me is Jamie Pate. I have a link to that video. She started using something she called a formula. And when I looked at it and tried it, I liked how it turned out. I'm using an approach I call layers. I have 4 layers. And when I use them, I like the way my clusters turn out. So what I'm working with today is a set of layouts that I made at an event, a retreat or a day crop or just meeting up with friends to scrapbook. But I didn't finish them because I didn't have everything I needed. When I go to an event, I don't like to lug all of my punches and dies and stickers with me. If I know I want to use one, yes, I'll take it with me. But I prefer to make the clusters when I'm home and I have everything at my fingertips. And so I come home with some unfinished layouts. All they do need is to get the embellishments on the pages. So what a perfect time to record me putting those clusters onto these layouts. So when we look in our little pantry of elements to use on our embellishment clusters, I'm including my punches, I'm including stamps, I'm including these embellishment packs that we get everywhere, and stickers. And there can be other things too. Some people even include actual tickets that they get from an event or someplace that issued a ticket to them. But decorating the pages can be a lot of fun. So I'm going to present my little 4-part process for making embellishment clusters, and that has really helped me so much. And I'm hoping it will help you too. Most of these layouts came from attending crops and working on layouts that I did not finish while I was at the event. So this particular one I made at a retreat last fall, and this was part of the kickoff to that Scraps Only series, where we took these scraps and made this layout that at first looks simple and easy, and it is. And by the way, if you want me to make it for you on a video, just leave me a comment. But I came home, and in my search for photos, I found these 2 photos. And I'm always happy when I can find photos for these base pages that I make without any photos on them. So when I came home with this base page, I was really thrilled when I found these photos that will work just fine on this layout. So right now I think it needs a little journaling spot. I'm going to treat this as the title. And this is just a memory of an attraction in the Universal Studios Orlando theme park. And I was really happy. I really liked the picture of all the hosts of the Tonight Show. And so I want to put an embellishment cluster right here. And so this kicks off starting to talk about the levels. So level number 2 is the base. And the base of a cluster is a starting point that is generally dictated by the size. And so I want to find a base element, some type of a shape to put right here that is actually going to be pretty large. Now I can pick a circle, a rectangle, a square. I'm going to choose a tag, I believe. So I'm going to start here at level 2, and I'm going to find a base to start my cluster here. And I found some scrap paper, and I cut off 2.5 inches wide, and I got 4 inches high for my cluster base. And I'm going to pull out my punch, and that's why I cut it at 2.5 inches. I think I'm going to put the dark at the top, and I'm going to punch the bevel tag. Now, unfortunately, the bevel tag is not in stock right now. I hope it will come back, or some type of a tag, because I am always putting a tag on my layout. Now, that tag can go straight or it can go at an angle. I tend to like to go at an angle, and I also tend to like to tuck it a little bit under my photo. So we now have our level 2, the base. Now let's talk about level 3. Level 3 is where all the fun happens. And that's where you go through your elements. What elements would you like on your layout? And for me, when I saw this sticker set from Grand Times and I saw this television set, I absolutely knew this television set was going to be a major focal point on this layout. So I could not think of a more perfect element to put here. So I pulled out my Creative Memories powder to put on the back of this TV sticker to remove the stickiness, because I want to be able to move it around, and it is going to be the main element on this cluster in terms of icons. So I want to be able to move it as I put the other elements on to go with it. So I definitely like this. Now I'm going to pause for a quick second, because I think that this layout can stand a small second embellishment cluster right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out one of my dies, and I'm going to cut a small tag to put up here, and I'm going to put that in the same paper as this. So I'm going through and searching my collections. I'm going through the pantry and I'm looking at what's on the shelf, so to speak. And I came up with these enamel elements in Grand Times. So I will be using them, but later on. And then I pulled out Copper Canyon embellishments, and I found this "Always Remember Us This Way" words, and it just seemed to go perfectly with this layout. And I also pulled from Copper Canyon this little banner here that said Great Adventures, which I'm going to put right here because it says Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. And it was a little adventure on the screen you get to watch. And so far, my cluster is starting to build, at least this one. So right now I've gone through my embellishments and my stickers, and I haven't found a whole lot more I want to add to this layout. So the next thing is to go to my punches because I want to finish this out a little bit. And we're still on layer 3. Now I'm about to go through my tools to add more elements to these clusters. And the first one I'm going to pick is going to be the ticket. And I'll find some scrap paper to make some tickets. And I'm not going to bore you with watching me punch a whole lot of scrap papers to make things. I'll be right back with what I come up with for a tiny cluster here and the larger cluster here. I'm checking in right now. On this large cluster, I've cut a ticket using the admission ticket punch. It's a border punch from Creative Memories. And I literally cut a single ticket by aligning the left side of my paper right here and punching pretty much half the ticket and then sliding it to the right and aligning it here. And when I punched the second time, a single ticket came out. So basically, on your first punch, you're punching this half, and then on your second punch, you punch that half, and you get a whole ticket. I used a personal die to cut a smaller ticket to go up in this tiny cluster. And then I used the Creative Memories ribbon punch to cut a notched banner right here. And I used the Border Maker cartridge for the notched banner to cut another one for this cluster. Right now, I have, not including my base, 4 elements in this cluster. This cluster is made up of 3 elements right now. I want to add more to it. Remember, I still have level 4 and level 1 to work on this cluster, so I'm not at all concerned about the number of elements yet. I'm now ready to go to level 1 of my cluster process. And that part I call a spray. And I looked up the definition of a spray, and they're typically flowers and foliage which are fanned out to create an airy look. And I thought that was the perfect way to describe what we want to do. Most of the time, people use leaves in their clusters, sometimes flowers, to give this spray effect. You can also use flourishes, and you can use die cut flourishes, you can use sticker flourishes, but I'm going to use my all-time favorite stamp. And it's this stamp by Close to My Heart, which of course is no longer in business. But as you can see, some of these stamps have really been used. And I literally would sit down and just stamp a bunch of those flourishes in a variety of colors. And then I'd get in front of the television and fussy cut them out while the TV's playing something I'm watching or half watching. And I made myself a little collection of these flourishes. And some other shapes too. And so this is one of my favorites. And these 2 right here in this size. But as I'm looking here, I also cut out some other shapes, and one of which was a Viewmaster reel. And I forgot there's a reel punch, but I'm just going to use my stamped Viewmaster reel. And I like this flourish. And I'm going to put the bigger flourish on the bigger cluster and the smaller flourish on the smaller cluster somewhere. And that's my level 1. So now I have level 1, my spray, level 2, the base, level 3, my elements, and I'm going to adhere all of these down before I put level 4 on. Now, as I'm putting things down, I'm going to be checking with myself about how I want things to be arranged. So when I come back, they may not look just like this because I will probably, for instance, I think I will snip this off and not make it the full width for this cluster. Who knows, I may even put the other half of it down here on this cluster. We're going to see how it comes out. Now, as I was mentioning, the number of elements in a cluster, I do strive for an odd look, but what I'm really looking for is that it comes together well. And I'm not going to be rigid because I'm like, do you count the base as one of the elements or not? Now, the reason I try to put an odd number of elements in my clusters has more to do with how the eye tends to look for symmetry if it's an even number, and it looks for balance. And if you're off, it could make the cluster be unpleasing to the eye. But when you have an odd number anyway, you won't be looking for symmetry. And so it just makes things easier for you. There's one more thing I can consider in here. A lot of people will ink the edges of some of their elements. I don't plan to do it on this layout, but it is something. If that's your style and your taste, go for it. Here is our smaller cluster base. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements in it. We have our level 1 flourish, our level 2 base, but we tucked underneath our level 3 elements. And here is our large cluster. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and our base makes 7 elements. And I'm very pleased with this, but now it's time for our level 4 elements. Level 4 elements are what Nicole Jones calls the finishers. They're what people put on at the end of creating their clusters. And so I'm going to pull from this Grand Times and put a few of these stars and these buttons on. I have a few more little enamel dots here that I'll probably use as well. Now, this cluster base has an odd number of elements already. So what I want to do is to keep the number of elements at an odd number. Now, I'm fortunate enough on this layout to have found some elements to go on here. But another thing you can use your pen and draw some finishing touches on your cluster bases. You can use splatters with the inks. You could make halos behind it, but I consider the halos to be level 1. Where would I put this? Well, I like it right there. I'm using my multi-purpose tool to help me position where I want to put this. And I'm thinking I want that there, or do I want one here? I definitely want it up here. And I think it'll look good on that blue background. Okay, I like that. So I've added 1 star there. And I'm, as they say, auditioning a place to put the star here. I think I like it right there. Like it right there. Okay, now it's stuck to my mark. Let's try this light, yeah. I'm going to add a third element here, kind of pointing towards this too. Now I like this because I have 3 of these small enamel elements in a visual triangle around my cluster, and I do like to do that. And I think I want another element up here. So I'm going to put this circular dot right here because I want it to stand out, and I want it really close, touching the spray. And that gives me a complete layout, complete with embellishment clusters. So I just have to write a few words about this, and that finishes this layout. And I like my embellishment clusters. I'm having fun making them. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way to this point, and I hope you really got something out of it. And if you did like it, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and YouTube says here's another video that you may like, so I hope you'll watch it too.